Are they waiting? Shoot, I forgot to turn it on, man.
And we're live.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
You got that too?
I did. Oops.
Uh-oh.
Dennis looks very impressed.
Yeah, he does.
Somebody didn't mute his YouTube. My bad. Dang it. I'll get that one day. I thought Abe's going to be so proud of me. Welcome, y'all. Hey, we started a little early.
Don't think that's going to happen.
Abe's very judgy, isn't he? He is.
Yes, that's not going to happen. Sorry.
Welcome to Coffee and Ham Radio, Cafe Noir. Let me change out the banner. I don't have a Noir logo in here. Steve, we need to fix that.
Yeah.
What?
I got the Daylight logo, but not the, You can't get good help around here. Just ask. Abe wants to replace me with the Telemundo girl. So
I don't blame him.
Probably cuter than I am. Guys, welcome. What's up? How's everybody?
Fantastic,
Charles?
Jim.
Doing good. Just got home.
Where were you?
Great. And I'm leaving.
Were you?
I went to the Grand Canyon. I went to the Grand Canyon with all the boys.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that, Chuck. Thanks for the invite.
Jerk. Sorry.
Drama.
You know what? Don't even give me that because I've invited you and you blew me off. That usually doesn't get another invite sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't my show, man. It was Charlie's show.
Not. I've been invited many times to different things, and I'm like, nope, sorry, can't make it. So I guess they just got used to me saying no and stopped.
Well, if we do the Northern California one, maybe you could make it.
How far of a ride is that from you guys to the canyon?
12 hours.
I've never
70
tried
miles
it.
an hour.
But yeah,
never
I would
slowing
imagine
down.
it's about 12 hours or so.
Oh, I know. It's 12 there, 12 back.
Well, you got to cross mountains too. Is there interstate or is that state highway or U.S. highways or what?
Yeah, I-5 most of the way. Well, I-5 down and then hit over the Tehachapi's, which is kind of a cool little stretch of hills.
You're just making that word.
Huh?
You're just making that word up.
What, Tehachapi's?
Yeah, that's not a real
I didn't
word.
know what he said. I just was agreeing like I knew, what he was talking about.
It's just a mountain range that you go up, and it cuts off. Oh, it probably saves me 45 minutes to an hour instead of going I-5 and then cutting across all the way down.
I did not realize that was that far of a drive from you guys. Now, y'all are both in Northern California.
The problem is I was 7 hours trying to get to where I actually went east.
Oh.
Because, it's 5 hours to the LA area where I cut across, and then it takes, actually probably six and a half hours until I got to go east.
And you guys are both, Dennis, both y'all are in like the Oakland, San Francisco Bay metro area somewhere.
Kind of. I'm closer to the capital in the middle of the state.
Sacramento
whereas,
side.
Chuck
is... I'm closer to the original capital.
Chuck's down in Compton, or I don't know anything
Compton.
about California geography.
He's over there where, there's
I'm just
really
next door to
expensive
Compton.
homes, Silicon Valley, that kind of thing.
No, I'm not that low. I'm just
I've been to California once, like back in '89. I was in San Jose for a couple weeks for a class or something.
That's a Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and I liked it.
That's about an hour from me.
Beautiful area. Of course, that was also 40 years ago, but 30 years ago, whatever.
It's grown since you were there last, I'm sure, because I haven't been there in a while. And it's
not that old. Not that old.
Vintage.
It's hard to tell sometimes.
Man, I'm embracing the gray. I don't care, and I've had this forehead forever, so it's whatever.
It's about a 5 head by now.
To tell you the truth, Dennis is an hour from me, but probably going to where we'd actually meet is almost exact amount of time because he's got a straighter shot than I do.
I think I have a.
It's weird because Sacramento's more north, but it's closer. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Dennis, what have you been up to the last while?
Nothing. I don't even know why I'm on the show right now.
Well, because we couldn't get the Telemundo girls, so we said, well, let's get Dennis.
No, I've actually been pretty active with my local emergency response team, community emergency response team, as well as with Aries. So in terms of ham radio, I haven't really been hopping on the HF bands, but I have been taking full advantage of my tech level license privileges and going on those 2-meter repeaters and using VHF a lot, doing WinLink a lot on VHF. I mean, all of that stuff that's it's just odd that I'm making a full circle back to that.
And
that
you're an
arena.
extra, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been fun. Other than that, Hamdom Thoughts has been kind of on hold. I haven't had any schedules lined up for anyone, so probably going to have to bring some of you on back again.
The last one
Catch
you
up.
had on was Carlos.
Anytime, Dennis.
About what, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
It's about over a month ago, I would guess.
Has it?
But yeah, that was a fun one with Carlos. At a certain point in the interview, the sun was setting and he's facing west, and so he just had sun in his eyes, and he's just like, yeah, trying to answer my questions, and he's just squinting, and he's like, I'm gonna move because the sun.
I was going to say, it's a podcast. You can move.
Yeah, you don't see it, but he was suffering toward the end of that video or that podcast. So
Well,
yeah,
he suffers for his art like we all do.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So you
Great
mentioned
guy.
Aries, Dennis. Out here, I just heard that Aries requires a whole lot more formage. You gotta fill out a little bit
Formage.
more forms, a little more not fromage, formage. You gotta get a couple more certifications, licenses, etc. Whatever they call them. I heard there's more paperwork to do than there used to be. Is that right?
Out there, I wouldn't know.
Well, there
out
is in
there.
Wisconsin. I don't know about if it's nationwide or if it's.
Out
Act like you're an
here,
expert.
all I did was I found the website for the Sacramento County Aries, and I
Wandered
submitted
in
their
one
form
day.
that said, "Hey, I want to be a member. This is what I can do." And they're like, "Welcome."
Ah, okay.
I mean, yes, I had all the EC 001 ARL class. I took that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've taken a bunch of FEMA courses. I've taken all kinds of stuff for cert that would qualify as well for communications in Aries, but they didn't really ask for that. It was interesting. I was just like, within a week or so, I showed up to a meeting, and they're just like, "Welcome. Here's
was
our
gonna
comms
say, do you
plan.
have
This is our next
NIMS?
event. Come join us." And
Do you have to sit through NIMS?
I think so.
That's what IS 700 and 800 is, I
Yes,
think.
yes,
I don't
yes.
remember.
Yeah.
I flushed that. I've been out of the fire department a year and a half.
He had to take this stuff. I don't
Yeah,
remember any of
it
it.
was painful. It was like
It
watching
is,
paint dry.
admittedly, it's kind of a barrier to entry. So if some Aries groups have their stricter requirements that you have to take all these,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of puts a damper on people's enthusiasm. So I like the way that my Aries does it. They're just like,
Very
you want to
nice.
volunteer? Come on in, and then we'll get you trained up. We'll
So-
get you all the other stuff you need
Yes.
after you've
That sounds
you've met the
perfect.
group. So,
Well, you know, I will admit straight up, I don't know a lot about Aries at all. And being in the emergency services biz for 27 years, and Chuck was in, how long were you in the fire department? Almost longer, I think,
30,
weren't you?
35 years.
35 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Aries does. Here in Montgomery County, Alabama, never talked to him, never heard of him, never saw him one time. The only interaction any of the county fire departments ever had with an amateur radio operator, thankfully not in my department, was a knucklehead who was using his amateur radio to talk on the fire department frequency and direct units for another fire department.
Whoops.
Yeah, that goes over well.
Right, it did.
I
like
know
a
a
fart in a
knucklehead that's
spacesuit.
done that before.
And that's the only interaction in the fire department that I ever had with any ham radio guys ever in my entire time in the department. So I don't really know if we even have an Aries here, if he was just a rogue knucklehead or a group of, organized knuckleheads. I'm not sure. So,
A lot of those,
yours sounds kind of organized a little bit.
yeah, a
'cause
lot of I've heard of Aries starting up from just a rogue knucklehead and it growing, but ours I would guesstimate is around 50 members. Of those, maybe 40 are active.
Okay.
Those are just guesses. I'd have to look at the roster, but there's a weekly
Some good
net.
numbers.
We do a weekly digital net as well. We over WinLink. So, and then we're always doing show and tell where you come into the meeting and you bring your go bag and you show off, your deployment gear, how you set it up. So it's pretty engaging. People get a lot of inspiration and ideas from each other. Mm-hmm. And one of the Aries coordinators helped me get my WinLink station going. I asked him a ton of questions because he was like this really deep BBS guy. He was running this packet station, and then I saw his call sign several times. It's NC6J. And I was just like, wow, this guy knows his stuff. If I meet him, I need to ask him a ton of questions. And he helped me get my WinLink station all set up. And after that, it was just, they really encourage digital message handling. So we practice that so much. And so WinLink forums, no problem, man. Just tell me which one.
I haven't played with WinLink. I think I downloaded it, looked at it for 2 minutes one day, and then didn't screw with it after that. I need to, I guess, because I have no idea about it. It would be a good Nuggets episode, probably.
Let's do it.
Steve and I could spend 2.5 hours not getting it to work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using some of
if you
these
really
sound
want to
effects
mess it
I
up,
have.
let me come too.
Right?
Oh,
We'll
yeah,
get Chuck
wow.
to set.
That'll even slow
we'll
you
do
down
WinLink
more.
over D-Star on
There we go.
705s
It's like my crazy 705 this week trying
on
to
a
get
reflector
FT8 to
that
work.
doesn't do terminal mode for 2 hours. That was
It
awesome.
was fun. Yeah,
It was
awesome.
great. I love it, but it's epic. I get to talk about it. I was there, man. It was great.
Everything's epic.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm kind of lucky because it's kind of hooked into Cal OES Office of Emergency Services. So
Oh man,
we're close
with them for a while.
to we're close to the Capitol. So any volunteer communications emergency groups, they're I guess they're highly encouraged. We support the Red Cross as well, although I've never been deployed for the Red Cross events, but I have gone to a couple of race comms for like triathlons or marathons where we just line up along the course and do stations and, report in if any runners are dropping out or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So it's fairly active, and I could understand in other parts of the country if they already have that all established, why look for a bunch of crazy old hams, right?
But you had a reflective vest, right?
Of course.
Okay, that makes it official then.
Did you have the
Yes.
bright green or the bright orange?
It's neon yellow.
Oh, yellow.
So-
Wow,
Yeah.
official.
Very official.
They used to buy this. They wouldn't buy each person when they buy the one that fit everybody. And when
Oh,
you
yeah.
pulled it out, it was usually Velcroed all in ways you couldn't throw it on fast. So
Every
Okay.
stinking time, Chuck.
every time, I know.
And
Or
I'm standing
or
in the station trying to put
the smallest
the damn
guy
thing on
that-
before I get in the
or
truck.
the smallest guy the department had on last time.
Yeah. So
It's
all
like
the
a
Velcro's
third my
in all
size.
the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or that's the jackass that sits in your air pack seat when you're not there at one call and then didn't put the straps back out. That guy.
Oh yeah, on the SCBA.
Yeah.
You guys use SCBAs or Scots? You use Scott?
We started with MSA and then
Mm-hmm.
we migrated to Titan, I think. I
Never heard of those.
Honeywell. They're Honeywell.
Oh, so Dennis, are you still building batteries?
Not so much.
What?
I got a question this morning. It's like, how can I get one of your batteries? And
Probably because somebody put a video out yesterday.
yeah,
That guy right down there.
I knew that would happen. The moment I saw
what you're talking
T.O.'s video, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a bunch of emails now. But yeah, sorry to say, I don't have any supplies. Haven't really been building batteries. I mean, it's kind of like you get to a point where you're like, what am I going to do with all this stored power? I don't have anything to power anymore, and I've given away the ones that I don't use. At this point, it's really kind of like I put the information out there, have fun, go forth and build. That's my attitude.
Were you doing batteries for a gig or just a side thing for you and you sold a couple, or
I
was that
haven't
ever like
sold
a
any.
serious thing?
I've never sold any.
Oh, so
but
it's an unpaid
it
side
was
hustle.
born out of a
Okay.
need. I just
everything.
I was tired of buying expensive life before batteries or even AGM batteries back in the day. And I was like, I watched Julian, OH8STN, build his first, what do you call it? Solar generator. I don't really like that phrase, but that he built a
marketing guys
solar
have got that.
generator.
Yep.
And I said, I want to try that. Where can I get those cells? And I started putting one together. I ended up spending way more than I anticipated on my first battery because I tried to do too many things with it. And I bought, of course, the headway cells. I don't know if you've ever seen those. Are the giant blue cells. They're like, they each look like cylinders.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
And-
that's a picture you've got on your website,
Yeah.
I believe.
And those, that in itself put the price at around $300, I think, just for the cells. And then I tried to do too much with the case and all that. So I think my first battery build was a 15 amp hour battery that cost $600.
Oh, wow.
And so much for saving money on those commercial batteries, right?
Right.
Right.
But then after that, I started miniaturizing, doing the K6ARK, just miniaturize. See how small I could get them with the most capacity. And just kept experimenting with the different
Holy moly.
BMSs.
Is
Added
that
a
what you're talking
voltmeter.
about there?
Yep. Oh, no. The other one with, if you scroll down in the previous, they're big blue cells. If you go all the way down, there you
Okay.
go. You see that thing there?
In the orange, the
Oh,
blue
okay.
and orange.
Yeah. Those
Oh,
are fairly big.
Those are Illinois batteries.
But those can take a beating, and they're very powerful. It's just, they're 15 amp hours per cell.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. What, 8 cells in that, or just 4?
I think that's the one for 4. I built another one with 8 cells.
Okay.
So,
So
So
now,
what's the
Yeah.
voltage on each one?
well,
They're
they're each 3.2, and then
3.2,
it comes out to 12.8 nominal for the pack.
so when you put this together, you said these are 15 amp hour a piece. So is that a parallel amp hours or?
That's
15, 15,
so
15,
they're
and
hooked
15.
up right now, or in that picture, they're hooked up in series. So 15 amp hours times, and it's
So
just the
60.
same. No, it's
No. Okay.
it maintains its capacity, but it increases its voltage
Increases
when you
voltage,
put them
yeah.
in series.
Right.
So-
Okay. Right. Yeah.
The funny
Always
thing
gets
is,
me.
I built this. I think it was in 2019, and then I took it to work. Back when we were going to the office, and my coworkers were a little bit
Still
concerned.
do.
They're like, "What is
I
that,
bet.
Dennis?"
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you have it strapped to your chest or anything?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is,
so
I started
he's
adding
kidding you,
things
too.
like
He's kidding.
This is after
started
dark.
adding things like voltmeters to them, and a voltmeter really turns up that anxiety for people who don't know what it is, because they're like, "Why is there
Wires.
why
and
is there
everything.
numbers and wires on that
Why is it
thing?"
ticking?
Why is there a timer?
But I would say that's the Denko trademark, because I haven't seen it. Well, I have seen it, but I haven't seen it very often in batteries where they have a built-in voltmeter on the battery.
Yeah.
And
Is there an
I
on-off
started
switch for that?
just for the voltmeter, not
Okay.
for the battery itself.
Right.
So that's probably the most common form factor that I made. It's kind of a 4-cell 12-volt battery in a flat rectangular setup with a voltmeter on it. That particular one, I also added leads so you could look at each of the cell voltages with one of those little tiny meters that you use for RCs. But I haven't done that since because it's a little cumbersome. Yeah,
Now, what is that?
that is a BMS for
Nice.
100 amps.
Stout.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, because I'm like, okay, that's stout.
And I
Power
used
leads
that on my
guy.
first build as well.
Now, what about these green cells? Are these because these are
That's just
fat
a different
boys, too.
kind. Those are the same size as my regular 32700 builds, but a different brand of battery that promised to provide 7 amp hours of power. They actually provide about 5.5.
Now,
So-
where are you getting your cells from?
I would buy them from AliExpress.
His
Ollie.
mother. And father.
But as of late, I've been buying them from battery hookup because it's a little bit more reliable. Like what they say the specs are tend to really be what it is.
Closer to the actual truth.
Whereas, you have AliExpress, they'll profess, 20 amp hour cells, and you're like, is that for real?
I like the names because this doesn't look sketchy at all.
That right there, yeah. Bring that to work.
That's what I'm saying, man. The police would be here with the water gun thing to disarm that.
I was going to say, is this TSA approved?
It is.
I bet TSA wouldn't even care.
Fellas. So if I disappear, it's probably because we had an incident.
Oh, they've never looked at my batteries on TSA that I know. I mean, other than through the scanner.
Yeah, but
maybe.
Dennis's look Franken battery like.
Yeah.
Till you slap that blue PVC on,
right?
Then,
that
blue
then
is
they
nice.
look okay.
That stuff, it doesn't shrink, it doesn't shrink, it doesn't shrink, it looks really bad, and then, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patience is a virtue.
So what is the biggest battery you ever made?
If you click on the one that says milk crate,
Great.
it's like the fourth one from the bottom. There you go.
Is that the $600 one?
No, that one cost $1,200, and that one had a purpose.
Woo.
You have
Okay.
one for your shack, right?
That's my backup power for my my network and PC in case the power goes out.
Well,
Okay.
and your fridge, right?
Yes, nice.
Hey, you could power
Keep
the
beer
fridge
cold.
too.
You gotta keep the beer cold.
Right. The beer cave. So that's your build list, your parts list right there.
Yep.
Is this always in line, or is this a UPS configuration?
I don't understand the question. What's
So
a
are you
UPS
running off of-
configuration?
Are you running off of mains power and this thing switches in the moment mains disappears, or are you always running off of
Oh,
battery
no.
power
This
and
is
it's
just,
charging in the background?
This is just a standby battery, and I actually use it to power and charge a lot of things. Then every once in a while, since it's rated at 280 amp hours, I just say, oh, maybe I should charge it, and then I'll plug it into the charger, let it charge overnight.
T.O. was talking about a transfer switch, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like for solar. They have to do that with solar.
Yeah, I have. This gave me an idea. I have a 100 amp hour battery and a 2,000 watt inverter. That I'm not going to put the house on it, obviously, but I haven't married it together yet. And actually, the milk crate is a great plan for doing that. That's interesting. So how long does it take you to put one of these together? You just woke up one morning and decided you wanted to start building batteries, or
It depends on how quickly you can get the pieces. And when it comes to ordering from AliExpress, you can wait from 1 to 3 months for
Yeah.
components. This build took about 3 months because I was waiting for the BMS and the cells. Everything else came from Amazon. That was pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just needed to actually sit down and do it, because when you're working with 1/0 gauge wire, you don't want to mess up. So you want to make sure you measure a lot and then cut
Right.
once.
right?
Yeah.
So
It's like
it took me
$5-6.
I just had this inertia where I just couldn't get it started because I was too afraid of messing up the cabling. Then I finally just went and did it, and it was done in a day.
Right. That looks pretty impressive.
Figuring the layout and all that stuff takes more time than actually doing it, right?
Yeah.
So there's
How
your
you gonna
all your
do it?
parts.
Yep.
Picking the box for me is a tough one.
Yeah, well, Chuck, that's why I haven't done anything with mine yet, because I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to put it in, right? My wife is not going to mess with a bare 2,000 watt inverter and a battery. That ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to make it, normal person usable.
Buy one of those Milwaukee, boxes they make, the plastic boxes with the wheel, and just
Yeah.
wheel it around.
Yeah.
And I don't really have it listed here, but I have a 100 amp hour setup that is powering my shack and a 12 volt chest freezer in the
Oh, that's what I was
garage.
thinking of.
And that is just, it's got a RV solar panel that charges it every day. And then it gets supplemented by grid power at night, and it just tops it up. It really doesn't top it up that long. But
How
as
much
soon as the
solar
sun
you put into
sets,
it?
you hear the inverter go off, or the switch go off, and then it will start charging from mains.
Main power.
How much solar are you putting into it?
It's a 100-watt panel
100
for
watt.
about, I'd say, 8 hours, 7 or 8 hours a day.
So you're it's just a top off thing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that energy is wasted because it will be fully charged, and then, it's just like the BMS is stopping it from being charged, and then as soon as it gets warm, the chest freezer kicks in and starts burning a lot of power, and then it can't keep up, and then toward the end of the day, it's like, oh, you're just a little bit under, and it will top it up again.
Right.
But I tried just disconnecting the mains power, and I figure I could keep that freezer running for a week
Man.
without any power, and maybe even longer. I mean, I have a gas generator and all that, but if I were using, and the WindLink station's also hooked into that, so it's not dependent on any commercial power. Then I have my Flex radio also hooked into it, but I haven't really turned that on lately. It's just sitting there. But 100 amp hours it seems plenty good for that kind of use case. And then
Right.
if ever I need, just double it, just add another 100 amp hour to it, and then I'll, just buy more time.
Right. I noticed that, and we were talking about this Saturday or maybe a week ago. I don't remember when, or on Steve's show on Monday. I was noticing that 100 amp hour life posts have gone down a fair amount. I bought a Chins about a year ago, and it was 500, 525, and they're more like 350 to 399 today for a hundo. And Chuck, you got one, didn't you? Somebody got one.
No, I've got a couple of the Miati 36 amp hours hooked together, so it's 72 amp hours.
Somebody I know was looking at buying 100. I thought it was one of you guys. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Somebody in
I've
Discord,
been looking.
maybe.
I think I've ruined the batteries in my motorhome. My old solar charger, I guess, was shorting, and every once in a while I'm running my batteries to zero. And it did at least twice, maybe 3 times, and they don't seem to last as long as they used to.
Oh, Ape was asking about one. I don't know if he was going to buy one. Or
I don't know if he was buying or not.
Yeah. Speak of the devil.
I see Ape in the chat. Yep.
I see Ape in
What?
the chat. Now, he's in the
Where's he
chat.
Why ain't he here?
He's too fancy, I guess, for Thursday. I don't know.
He says, get Dennis to explain how to choose a BMS for a project.
There you go. All right. Break it
Display.
down, Dennis.
How do I choose? Well, I've kind of settled upon a bunch of names. Dali is the most popular of those. So I really look at what my expectations are for amp draw for whatever I'm using it for, and size it accordingly. And if it's one of those big batteries like the 280 amp hour or the 100 amp hour, then I'll just match that rating with, I know it's amp hours and it doesn't really translate, but like for the 280 amp hour, I got a 250 amp BMS by Dali. And then for the 100 amp hour, I got a 100 amp BMS. It's not like I'm going to use that level of current, but I just like the expandability.
The headroom. Yeah.
If I need it. I've not seen the 100 amp hour go beyond 7 amps of draw.
Oh, well.
So,
What does your fridge use?
You're talking about the chest freezer, right?
The chest freezer. Yeah.
Yeah,
freezer.
that's 7.
That's
I think when it's on, it uses about 3.5 amps.
What's it? What does it
It's a-
peak
it's
at
a-
though, when it comes on? That should be higher.
Well, my meter's not reactive enough, so it kind of just immediately goes to 3.5 amps. But I've calculated to use on the hottest of days, it will use about half a kilowatt
Oh, well, shoot. That's not
hour, or what's the right
half a kilowatt hour.
half a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
So 500 watt hours
500
of
watt hours,
power
500 watt hours. Yeah.
for like 100-degree day, right? And it's in the garage, so it experiences the true temperature of the day, right?
More.
And that's mostly made up by the solar, and then maybe about 100 watt hours are supplemented by the mains at night.
And in the Grand Canyon trip, I was running a overlanding type fridge, and I was using a Blue Eddy. I guess that's about somewhere around 45 amp hours probably. And it would go 2 days, but we had so much cloud cover that I was lucky to get 2 hours of slower time with a 60 watt. I was way under. One of the days I actually plugged it into my truck to get 85 watts out of it while we were driving, and that helped. But I was a little disappointed. My two Miatis actually went last year when we went to Yosemite. It went 4 or 5 days with hardly any. I think I put like an hour of sun into it one day, and it wasn't even very good sun. I was getting maybe 30 watts or something.
Yeah.
So I was a little. It didn't really work as well as I thought.
So when you're picking the BMS, the BMSs are rated on amperage is how they rate the BMS. Okay.
I've tried a bunch from AliExpress, a lot of them unbranded, and I've been lucky because if you watch like Will Prowse, he talks about BMSs that fail all the time. I've never actually had them fail other than me shorting them for some reason or, releasing the magic smoke for some reason while building them. But once they're built, I've every single one of the batteries I've built, the BMS has performed. It cuts off at the right time. It cuts off at the high charge and at the low voltage.
Will's big thing is the low temperature. If it doesn't have a low temperature cutoff, then
I don't really pay attention to that. I just say, I'm not going to use my battery in the freezing weather.
Right.
I'm not going to charge it in the freezing weather.
We don't get a whole lot, so.
Well, I don't. What's you guys' winter weather like there? I mean,
70s.
For Wisconsin, that would be an issue.
For Chuck, it's
Alabama,
a lot
it's not so much
smaller of a
either.
range.
Yeah,
for me,
I don't get quite as hot as Adam.
Out in the Central Valley, where I am, it's like today. It was close to 100 degrees, and it gets as low in the winter to sub-freezing, so maybe 30 degrees.
Okay.
So there is a small period of time where my garage battery, the 100 amp hour one, could be in danger if I charged it, in the coldest of nights. But I typically don't charge at night, so it only gets charged when the sun comes out, and by then the temperature is coming up a little bit. So I don't really worry about that low temperature stuff. And even so, I've had a smaller build in the frost, and I haven't experienced any problems with it. I abuse the batteries anyway, so
That's what they're there for.
I don't really care about low temperature cutoff. If one day I fry a battery by charging it when it's really too cold, then I'll just get a bunch more cells. It's just another reason to build another one.
I have that Chins, that 100 amp hour, and I watched Will Prowse do a review on it. I've watched a bunch of his videos, and the kid seems really sharp. And he complains about that on almost every battery review he's ever done. Is the low temperature cutoff.
I don't think I have a single BMS that has a temperature sensor on it.
So what's the danger there if you're charging when it's low temperature?
Yeah, that was where I was going. I don't really understand what the problem is.
I guess it's just chemically unsafe. It's the battery is not designed to take a charge during that period where it's below freezing, and you can probably wreck it. I don't know how exactly. It's not going to explode because it's too cold. But
it's a T-shirt, people. It's a T-shirt. It's an orange.
It just damages the cells
Jim,
somehow.
no, stop, stop.
What?
What are you
Ape
doing?
started
Stop.
it. They said it's a Dickie or an ascot. No, it's not. It's an orange T-shirt. That's all it is.
I'm
You don't want to see what's underneath this now. That's
no,
too
I
much
don't.
hotness.
No, we
That's too
don't.
much
Who's got a
hotness.
better? I don't know who's got a bigger man sweater. You or Shane?
oh boy.
Easy now, cowboy. Easy.
I'm talking about low temperature cutoff, and Jim starts stripping.
Stripping.
Dennis, and that battery talk makes me hot.
Too hot for ham
That
radio.
technical battery talk. Dang it.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right. you know, I need subscribers. If I don't get subscribers, this shirt's coming off, and then the T-shirt's coming off next.
Oh no.
So, you know,
Yeah,
subscribe.
that's
It's a warning.
motivation right
It's a
there.
warning, everyone.
more than Steve could handle.
All right.
So
Let's hope so.
when you put a battery pack together, how critical is the cells matching in voltage? Because I thought that was a thing too.
Oh, when you're
building a pack.
when you build it, yeah, I
Yeah.
try to get similarly matched cells in terms of starting voltage when I put it together. I have ignored that. There are times where there would be one that's really low and another one that's really high, and I just put them together and then, just let them even out over time.
And they get happy with each other. Eventually.
Yeah,
It's like
I mean,
your ex-wife. You just got used to living with her, and you moved on with your life.
if you are ordering from China, the quality control is always a concern, and you're always going to get weak cells. So I try to test them beforehand, make sure that they're kind of the same in terms of charging capacity and all that. But admittedly, I don't always do that, especially if I buy them from battery hookup. I just kind of trust that they've already done all that work, and what I'm putting together should be
well, they
Is
should.
that a
reasonable.
U.S.
That's what you're
company
paying
or
for.
is that a Chinese company as well?
Battery hookup, they're based in the East Coast, and they
Okay.
are U.S. They like to recycle. They like to get a bunch of things that they get deals on bulk orders, but they also like to recycle a lot of batteries that they find. So
I was watching one of Will's videos, and he got some recycled solar panels.
Nice.
Oh,
That- they were like $50 a piece, and they were huge. I want to say 200 watt panels, 300 watt panels. He did a video on it, several videos on them. I thought that would be great. Recycled solar panels and recycled batteries. I could power my whole shop with that. That'd be awesome. I'd have to cut
That's your
down the
next
trees.
project, Jim.
Right. Yeah, because I'm totally getting on the roof and putting solar panels on the portable building. Totally. So that's not super sensitive. Then the battery voltage is matching, because I've seen where they need to be within like 0.1 volts or something like that.
I'm kind of a cowboy when it comes to building them.
Okay.
I wouldn't follow my example, and I know that there's a lot of people who love building batteries. They're probably getting really mad by me saying that, but yeah, I just trust, especially battery hookup. I just trust that they're pretty matched, and the ones from AliExpress, if they turn out to just really be off, then I'll just build a different pack. They're so inexpensive, and they're so the batteries, LifePo 4 in particular, can be cycled so many times that it just I don't really take a lot of care when I put them together or how I treat them.
Now, have you got a background in electrical engineering, or is this something you just picked up from YouTube videos?
No, I just picked it up because
Okay.
of Julian. Then I did a lot of YouTube and Googling.
Right. Everything I own came from Amazon, and everything I know came from YouTube. Pretty much.
Exactly.
Right. Well, that's outstanding.
So I mean, I was really happy to see T.O. demo the case,
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
I was like, I got to buy that. That's cool.
and I'm sorry I don't have it here. It's down in the garage. But there was I had originally planned for that case a big pack. It was like, I would say it's about 12 inches by 8, maybe. 24 amp hour pack. But when I got it from battery hookup, it didn't have any leads coming out of it. I was like, how am I supposed to use this? I have to take this apart in order to use this, which is, I wouldn't have bought it in the first place if I knew I had to like take off all that pretty wrapping. So yeah, there we go. It's good to see it in practice. But, in retrospect, I'm glad I didn't use the 24 amp hour battery, because that case would have weighed a lot. And
It does.
I don't know if you want
It's
to
heavy with the 891 in it.
I was going to say, by the time you had a radio in there,
basically walking around with this 30-pound case. And
well, if you're serious about your soda, there you go.
soda.
If you're serious about his soda, buy a KX2.
Well, that's
Maybe you
kind
have
of
one. I don't know.
that's kind of the opposite of Adam. Adam is, Adam carries more in life support than he does in radio gear, just about, and when he does his sodas on a, on an Altoids radio or something.
Right.
And the funny thing about battery building is that it's kind of like when you're a carpenter, everything, and all you have is a hammer, or everything gets solved with a hammer, or whatever that saying is. Building the 12-volt batteries.
Yeah, if you
Every
only have
time
a
I
hammer, it
travel,
looks like a nail. That's it.
Yeah. Every time I travel, I'd always try to force everything that I was bringing into a 12-volt mindset. So devices, I'd have converters from 12 to 5. I'd, bring all these things that could charge and power off of 12 volts. And I realized, and I think it was KB1HQS who opened this up to me, is that power distribution, PD, right? The USB-C.
Right.
Oh, I got corrected on YouTube for that, man. Sorry, it's power delivery. I don't
Power
want you to make
delivery?
the same mistake
Okay.
that I made.
See,
It's
I've been
power
calling it
delivery.
Power
distribution
delivery.
too.
PD.
I got yelled at.
The PD
Steve,
spec.
It's a big powers after us.
It's
man.
a great thing. And now
It is.
I am leaving that realm of 12 volts, and I have a lot of these like PD power bricks that I bring,
Right.
and they supply 12 volts for a lot of things. And then you can even get special cables that guarantee that it's 12 volts, because it has some kind of computation. It tries to figure out what the device wants, and it will go from like 5 all the way to 19 volts or something like that. So you don't want to fry anything.
Right.
But you can get a cable that guarantees that 12 volts comes out of it, and you can use that to charge and power your rigs, or
See, he admits it.
charge your radios. So, I used to be a purist. I used to be all LiFePO 4, 12 volts, make your life conform to that. But now I'm realizing the convenience of carrying these consumer batteries around.
Let me start some
using those.
crap. XT60 or power poles.
Oh, no. Why do you?
Which way do you
Let's
fall on that?
Hey, let's just everyone stop using ham radios. Let's go to CB. I mean, that's the kind of question you're asking here.
Dennis
I think
is right.
I think that's a power pole is what he's saying, Chuck.
Yeah, there's no comparison, believe me.
We've got to have a little controversy, man.
And,
we got
and,
to have
and just like
XT60
HDMI's, ham radios picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
Well, when you need 60
XT60 is
amps.
awesome. I'll tell you that. XT60 is a great connector.
Yeah,
It's quick
it's overkill,
disconnect. You can't screw it up. It's just
Oh, I could.
not
Yeah.
what we use, right? I mean, power poles is what
why
we
do
use.
why did we pick power poles? They don't make an especially strong mechanical connection.
We picked them 25 years ago when they were fresh and new.
I don't know. When I got into ham, that was all
XT60s
everybody was
have been
talking
around
about was
forever.
power pole. And
Like
K
when I
Murder.
was
K-Murder's
putting
power
together
pole of the
my
world.
3D printer, and I was trying to splice off all these 24 volt connections to power lights and other things. It was all XT30 or XT60, one of those. And I was like, this is pretty convenient. It's
I
easy
can't tell them apart. I don't
easy
really
to
know
put
the
together.
It's the size.
difference. Is it?
And I thought the same thing. Why don't we
don't
use
see
this more in
size.
ham radio? But I don't know. It's just one of those things that power pole just seems to be dominant.
The nice thing about the XT60s are way cheaper also. And
Are they?
I mean, oh yeah, you can buy a pack of those things for almost nothing.
But I like
So
that
we
I
could buy the cheap off-brand XT60s, and they would work better than the off-brand power poles.
oh yeah,
probably.
because they have a lot of connection area. I mean, that's.
But I like the fact that I can put together a power pole in the field with just a crimper. Whereas an XT60, I'd have to have it soldered.
That was my next
Shrinked.
question: is do you have to
I've
solder
never had to
those
do
things?
that.
Yeah.
Because looking at that picture, I'm kind of guessing it looks like soldering
So,
and shrink wrap.
Yeah, I would just.
And
well,
it's
I
just
use-
for
I
me,
use
it's a
power
lack of
poles.
use. But I can never. I always have to look it up. What is positive? What is negative on an XT60? So
It says it right on it.
I just I see it
They say
there
it
on the
right on
picture.
there.
But It
I got
always
these-
confuses me.
I'm using this for my solar stuff because they use this and a couple other things in solar. Solar's kind of the same way. They use a lot of different
Yep.
connectors.
Now, Steve, that's a 60 on that radio.
XT60 built into the radio.
Oh,
And
nice.
Chuck, what's that you're holding up? Is that a 60?
This just I bought these because they were already done. They're just wide, and I hook this on my solar for my motorhome so I can tie in a external. My solar panel on my motorhome is not always optimal because it sets flat, so I can take a external one, or I'm parked in the shade and I can add it to it. It makes a huge difference. I mean, especially when you can aim them the right direction. But I mean, I'm like everybody else. I use power poles for all my radio stuff. But
Chuck,
I
you
just
would not like
recently had
everybody
a
else.
conversation with a new ham, well, relatively new. He's building a kind of inverter setup. So he was asking, what's the best quick connect method for power? And I was like, naturally, power poles. And we were talking about it for a while. And then I guess as he was explaining more his setup, turns out he was using 6-gauge wire to connect his inverter to his battery that he had. And so I was like, oh, okay, 6-gauge wire. Now you're looking at the big power poles. You're not looking at the typical ones.
Yeah. We had
can't really-
winches on our brush truck that were using the big gray Anderson connectors. And I think that was 6-gauge wire run to the winches.
Yep.
We have a question for you, Dennis. Do you solder or weld the cell connections?
Oh, trick question.
I spot weld the
Spot weld.
bus bars, and I solder the leads for the BMS.
Now, can you solder the bus bars at all, or is that
Yes,
you really
can.
need to?
You know, my first few builds I soldered. Ample use of flux is very useful in that situation.
Okay.
Try to minimize the amount of heat you're transferring to the battery, but I have done it before, and those batteries are still running now. So
Okay.
it's
Because that's
not
what
like-
stopped me from making some batteries. Because I was going to mess with it, but I'm like, I don't have a welder.
Yeah, it's not something that's people fret about heating up the battery, but I've never damaged the battery using that.
Okay.
So you actually made your welder. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I didn't make it. It's a kit that you buy from the UK. It's called Melectric's car battery spot welder, and
Wade, that's an FX4C.
I don't know what that means.
Wade was asking a question. I just
Oh,
answered it
okay.
real quick.
Yeah, and it's an Arduino-based spot welder. You hook it up to a car battery that has 400 to 800 cold cranking amps, and I just bought one at Walmart.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to put together. And I thought I would buy it and I wouldn't use it that much, but it's really something that I use a lot. It's amazing once you have the tool, you're like, oh, I could always spot weld this. And then-
Everything is a nail now.
yeah.
Nail.
Well, and see, and I thought about it. I've thought about it a couple times, and I'm like, oh, man, I'll probably kill myself. I'll probably weld my finger or something.
Wait, you probably still will.
Yeah. Well, Dennis is here, and he's admitted he's a cowboy, so,
Yeah. And so I did a build video with Josh, HRCC Josh, live battery build, and we demoed that spot welder. It's a great tool.
Okay.
Chuck, did you bring enough for everybody?
Anime,
yeah, I was
hey.
going to show you. Check this bad boy out. I
Glad you're
bought
here.
this for a
Yeah,
project.
there's
I forgot
anime.
what
I
it's for.
haven't seen her in a while.
Right.
Is
I don't
that
know
a
what
60
size
or a
that one is.
90? Looks like a 90.
It's way bigger than it might be a 90. Yeah.
Hey, Derek. You
Wants
got
to know the spot welder. What was the name of that again, Dennis? I'll get it.
You gonna get it, Steve?
Oh, let me see if I can find it real quick, and then I'll give it to you to post.
Or you can
It's
share it
called
from yours. Either way.
Melectrics.
Like MUH, like Milady. Melectrics.
Melectrics. Here, getting it momentarily. And it's easy build.
And so that just runs off a 12-volt battery. Is that what you said you were running yours off of?
Yeah, it's on a car battery. It's on a
Okay.
trickle charger.
There you go,
Spot
Derek.
welder. $96.
Well,
That's
96
euros.
euros.
Oh, what is
I don't
it,
know what that
euros?
is. in
It's
real
a little
money.
over 100 nowadays with shipping.
We're getting close to parity
Arduino
with the
spot welder. So that's interesting. What is? I guess you're controlling the output with the Arduino.
Yep. It's
blue pill.
it's a milliseconds pulse, and mine is set to like 19 milliseconds of just pure whatever the battery can deliver, and
Pure energy.
pure energy.
and it does a good. What I love about spot welding batteries is that if you screw it up, you just take a pair of pliers and rip the nickel strip off. You can't do that when you solder them on. You're just like, you're pretty much screwed if you solder them on.
Okay.
So it's a great way to get them on there, and it transfers very little heat to the cells.
Because it's so fast.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that was what I had thought the concern was with soldering on those cells, was that you were heating the thing up.
Yep. I got a battery here, in fact. This is a
Oh, that one.
There you go.
this
Wrong
is a
button, Steve.
4S3P 26650 cells. It's about almost 9 amp hours. I've showed this before on streams. But this is a battery that I used solder to put the bus bars on. And it's one of the first I built in 2019. And it's still going
kicking.
strong. It's the one that I go to all the time. In fact, if, I'm testing a mobile rig or something, just anything 12 volts, I will pull that battery out because it's like the most, it's like in the middle in terms of capacity and
Right.
its amperage capabilities. So I
I
love
use
that
my
battery.
9 a lot for 100 watts. I mean,
Yeah.
Now, no code
enough
is
for
asking
lessons.
why use a nickel strip, Dennis, as opposed to copper
Does
or
a
something
dime
like
strip
that.
cost more?
All I can really say to that is it's the easiest.
There we go.
Nickel strips are what they use in commercial batteries, and if you were to get like copper strips, I don't know, would the spot welding be different? Would you need more power to do that? I'm pretty sure that they would work, but
I wonder
if-
I wonder if copper's more expensive. Maybe. I don't know. I've noticed everybody does use.
but if
nickel.
if you are looking to build a battery and you look at the supply places or even Amazon, that's what you'll find is nickel strips, and there will be varying thicknesses depending on the amount of amps you want to push through them. And a lot of the time I double them up. So like if I know I have these batteries that can put out 50 amps, I'm going to put 2 or 3 strips. I'm just going to spot weld multiples on there so that I know I can get the enough current through each of the bus bars.
So you mentioned a minute ago, you said 2S3P or something like that. I know what you mean, but I don't know if everybody else does. So can you explain?
Yeah, so this
S&P
battery here
stuff.
is a 4S3P. So what that basically means is 4 cells in series to make one part of it, and then 3 of those in parallel, 3 series packs in parallel. So what that does is each of these cells is 3.2 volts. You multiply that by 4 when you put them in series, so that's 12.8 volts. And then you multiply each 4 pack times 3, and that will multiply the amp hours that you have. And so these cells are, let's just call them 3 amp hour cells. So that's 3 times 3, that will be 9 amp hours for the total pack. So when you see the S, that's series, the P is parallel.
Okay. So you're building up your voltage with the series,
Yes.
and then you're extending the current output with the parallels.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And you will always find in LiFePro 4 that it has to be 4 cells, because that
To get
gets
to
you
that.
right at 12.8 volts, which is almost a drop-in replacement for standard AGM gel cell, sealed lead acid type batteries.
Mm-hmm.
When
Right.
you're talking lithium ion, or lithium polymer, you're dealing with an entirely different set of voltages. So you'll never quite get to 12 volts. You'll either do 3 8S, which will get you 11.7 volts, or 4S, which can go as high as 16 volts if it's fully charged. So it's too wide of a difference that it kind of risks burning out your device that's 12 volts.
Right.
So that's why not a lot of people do not use lithium ion. But for those who do, and they want to guarantee the 12 volt voltage, they'll throw in a DC converter in there to just regulate that
To just
that
step it
voltage to
down.
12, which means you lose some efficiency if you're putting in that converter.
Now,
So that's why LiFePO 4 is popular, because it's just like using a sealed lead acid. It's just so much lighter. And
It's supposed to
Okay,
last
Dennis,
longer
let's-
too, right?
Let's
Yeah.
do this live. So I've got a 4 serial, 1 parallel battery at the top, and what you said, this gets you your 12 volts, right?
yep.
Okay.
Steve,
And
are you
what are the
mathing?
individual cells? Oh no, Dennis is mathing. I'm just taking notes. What is the individual cell capacity on these to make it 12 volts?
You mean cell voltage.
Yeah, cell voltage, and then they also, well, yeah,
Yeah.
cell voltage.
Each cell is 3.2 volts. That's a nominal voltage. In practice, it's actually about, I would say 3.4.
Well, it's like any battery. The voltage goes down as the battery goes down, right?
Yep.
And then this is where it gets to be interesting for me, because I don't fully understand this battery that I'm working on down below here is going to be the other one. It's going to be like 2S2P or 2S1P, the other configuration that we were talking about. So help me build that one.
Derek C, buddy.
What are you trying to do again, Tio?
So you said there's 2 different kinds of configurations, and you do this one above is 4 serial, so they're all
Yep.
connected in series, and then there's a parallel configuration.
So you're
you
just
could-
building multiples of the top there. You're just doing that
Okay.
over and over.
You're doing that to get your amp hours,
Yep.
because you don't
But
gain amp hours on the top one there, because you're multiplying your voltage instead.
Yeah, it's just series voltage versus
So
parallel.
just think of that top set of 4S1P as one pack. And then you're just going to put a bunch of packs together until you get the right capacity that you want.
That's a
So
12 volt
we do
battery
this.
right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like this.
So there have been builds that are like 4S 16P, just to get the most capacity for all these parallel packs. And then to answer K04AFL, Steve asked, what
There you
about
go.
making a 24 volt pack and converting it to 13.8? Yeah, you can do that. In that case, you would do an 8S 1P and then just multiply them. And then you'd have to do a DC to DC converter to get it back down to 12 volts or 13.8 in your case.
See, no code.
It's
73 is
longer
perfect.
See
runtime
ya.
on the bottom. So how do you connect the
Later, no code.
ends? Do you connect the ends together?
Yep.
Yeah, now you're positive to positive.
Yep. See, here's TO simplifying.
Well, it's actually
Everything's better with
idea for
pictures.
us.
Yeah. I have a question or two for Dennis after Steve gets done with this.
And so this would actually the lower battery would give you twice the runtime of the upper
Yeah.
battery.
So let's say the top pack is 6 amp hours. The bottom pack would be 12 amp hours.
So for every stack of 4, you're getting 6. Now, when you buy those cells, Dennis,
Yep.
so those cells are 3.2 nominal.
Yep.
Are there different? So there are different amp hour ratings for
Yes.
each different kind of cells. So
Yep.
then big blue ones were 15
15.
amp hour cells.
Yes.
But you're still doing for example, a
Thanks,
4S1P.
Yes.
It's just okay.
Correct. So in that example, I got the headways that are 15 amp hours. So the first pack I made was a 15 amp hour 4S1P headway build. Then the second build I did was parallel. So that's a 30 amp hour battery I made. for
Okay.
that one.
Now, let me ask you a question. I can't believe anybody else in the chat hasn't popped this out. You mentioned lithium ion and lithium polymer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fool with them because the nominal cell voltage is just weird compared to LiFePO?
I mean, they are useful for
'Cause I think RC uses LiPo batteries.
for different projects. If you're working with, like, for example, Arduino projects and things like that, they can tolerate. You probably like to use one of them or two of them for those kind of things to power your boards. But in the ham radio sense, it's hard to get in that sweet spot that a radio likes of, what is it? I think a radio operates from like 11 volts to 11 to 15 volts or something like that. And you just run the risk of either underpowering or burning out your power supply or power connection by using lithium ion. The other reason I don't really use lithium ion is because if you charge them wrong, they are very flammable. So there are a lot of videos on YouTube, just look them up, where you just stab a cell and it will just start venting gas until it blows up.
Like the kind that are in the X6100.
Yeah.
I've discovered, I
Or
had
the old
some
Galaxy phones they wouldn't let you take on planes.
I had some
Which
drone
is the same batteries
cells
in all cell
that had swollen. They were swollen up,
Yeah, but only
as they
few
say down
burn.
here.
Whereas lithium iron phosphate, I've shorted those for extended periods of times. Like, I couldn't get the thing to disconnect because it was too hot. And it would just sit there for a few seconds, shorted. And all that would really happen is it would vent a little gas. And then when I finally got something in there to disconnect
welded.
the nickel strip that had shorted, it had pretty much burned everything around it, melted the case it was in, burned my fingers, but it didn't blow up on me. So,
And that battery's still going strong, right?
and that battery is in use.
So how well do the different chemistries hold their charge? That was another thing that I think there was some difference on some of those.
Yeah, lithium iron
Like-
phosphate's known for longer cycle times. So, or not times, but cycle
Shelf life.
count. I think the running number is like 2,000 charge cycles
No, on charge cycles, yeah.
for
28.
lithium iron phosphate, whereas lithium polymer or lithium ion, they're in the hundreds of charge cycles. That's why you
Okay.
have cell phones that after a couple of years you need to buy another one because the battery's dying.
Scam.
Laptops as well. You get a few years of cycles out of a laptop, and then you just need to either replace the battery or send it in to get repaired or get another laptop. So,
So I've noticed a couple things with batteries over the years. I played with RC a good bit, and LiPo batteries are apparently sensitive. And you're supposed to, long-term storage, you don't want to discharge them all the way. You're supposed to discharge them a certain amount and store them with a certain amount of charge in them, or they'll get mad and make fire and burn your house down. And
Yep.
I can't remember, there was a whole lot of parameters to fool with LiPo batteries.
yep.
Lithium ion doesn't seem to have that.
all this discussion we're having, it just seems like, well, why not just go LiFePO everything, right?
That's where I'm going with the question.
The
Yeah.
answer to that is that lithium ion, lithium polymer, they have an excellent energy density. Like, that's how you can get these very, very small batteries in phones and in devices. Whereas LiFePO 4, they're fairly big for what they do. So an equivalent, like just even looking at this, these two things are probably the same watt hours, but this one's lithium ion, this one's lithium iron phosphate, right? Because just the way the chemistry is, doesn't store as much energy. It's just safer to go with lithium iron phosphate, right?
Okay.
So that's why you see the cars and the computers and laptops and phones all using lithium ion because
So
you can really
Teslas-
pack it in small.
Electric cars are using lithium ions.
I think the earlier ones are. I think current technology might be something safer.
I was going to ask about nickel metal hydride or lithium manganese, maybe. I can't remember. I didn't know. I don't know. We did some studying on electric cars really, 4 or 5 years ago, and I've flushed all that too.
It would be great if lithium, what is it? Nickel metal hydride was not so heavy. Then we could probably use those for a lot of things. But I think it was even Julian who said that the first time he tried to build a battery pack, he tried to make it out of nickel metal hydride AA's or something like that, and it was just too heavy of a pack. Mm-hmm. It would have been a good idea. I mean, just take consumer rechargeables and you're making your ham radio stuff out of it, but not practical in terms of being portable.
Okay. Now, what about? I asked this earlier, and I think we got sidetracked. So long-term storage. If I charge a LifePo today, my 100 amp hour, and you're doing this with your freezer battery, you're topping it off with solar every day. But so I have a 100 amp hour battery. I'm going to build something around it to make it wife acceptable for power outages, for emergency power situation. Do I need to charge that thing once a month? Can I charge it and leave it alone? What is the long-term energy storage on that? I
have many batteries that I have ignored for half a year.
Okay.
You know, it's, again, this is probably more the way that I use the batteries versus what is best practice. I've heard that you should, if you're not going to use them, maybe discharge them to 75%. And then if it's a long time thing, then maybe top them up every couple months. But in practice, I've not seen that problem. I would have unused batteries that I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe I should use this one, and then I'll plug it in and it's still at 13.2 after 6 months or so of non-use. So
you guys are some morbid people in the chat. I've been skipping all that because it's going through my head, and y'all have gone straight to it. Don, Mike.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just read the chat. Don, it's kind of funny. Yes, and your local fire department thanks you for not driving an electric car. Amen to that. Chuck, did you ever catch any electric cars, fires or wrecks that you had to mess with those guys?
No, I think those guys most of the time cause the accident. Trying to be fast.
Wrong Don. He was talking about the other Don.
Other Don. Don's locks. He knows I'm talking about him. He's smiling right now, those VK people. Yeah, we never caught any, thank God, we never caught any car fires or anything where we had to disassemble Teslas in the field to get to anything.
No.
We spent a lot of time studying on it. They sent out a whole lot of training material, but there's not any real standard on a lot of that stuff either. So, well, that's very cool. So, Dennis, we've beat batteries up here for a while.
Yep.
You're involved in CERT as well.
This tends to be the topic when I get invited to a stream, which I'm happy to talk about, but for me, it's kind of boring.
Well, it's interesting because I was afraid to solder, and you're telling me, roll with it.
Just do it.
So what do you do with CERT now? CERT is...
My community emergency response team. I'm actually a new member for this one. I used to be part of the SAC Metro Fire one since 2017, but I just recently transferred because I don't go there anymore to that area because I don't work in an office anymore. I just work at home. So I transferred to our local
just flex
city
harder,
one.
Dennis. Just flex harder, man.
And this one, I just became a member. They're a really great group and very welcoming. For them, I've already been to one thing. It was the 4th of July celebration parade for one town over in Galt. And that was a fun event. But they got a lot of stuff planned, including, I think, next week we have kind of an intro to ham radio class that they want me to participate in.
Is that code for teach?
Right.
Probably. So I'm going to bring all my gear. I'm going to show them, hey, you can send a text without having a cell signal. Here's how to do it.
You know
Or,
a
you can send an
GMRS
email without having
That's right.
internet.
A true story. Well, not story. It's just a true fact. I got into ham radio. I finally got my license going when I watched the Rogue Knuckleheads. Modern Rogue. That's it. Modern Rogue. I was watching Modern Rogue. I couldn't think of their name. And they're kind of, it's been an hour and a half since our last safety incident. Those guys are hysterical. Anyway, they had Josh on, and he was doing WinLink, and I think they had a Baofeng there too, and they were talking about ham radio, and that's what got me finally motivated to get my ticket. But,
Yeah, someone asked me, maybe it was you, Jim, when we were talking prior to this, what does ham radio have to do with CERT,
Yeah, it was me. When we were talking the other day. Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't know, because when I'm talking with other CERT members, we use MERS. How do you pronounce that? MERS?
I call it
No,
MERS.
I pronounce it, but I could be wrong.
MERS. We use that. And it's a really easy way. You just get one of those Redavis MERS radios and program it, and you're all set. You're hooked in. But this CERT has a lot of hams in it for some reason. And so I think they want to expand what they're doing. A lot of them are techs or generals. So pretty much live on the repeaters, and that's about it. And we'll see where we could take it. See what else we could do with
So
with
would
our
they
ham radio
deploy in a
licenses.
situation instead of Aries, or does it work with Aries? Or
It's
again, we don't
different
have that in
regions. Because my Aries membership is for Sacramento County, and it's mostly like north and all the things that happen kind of north of me. This is my town's CERT, which
Okay.
covers the southern part of the valley down to Galt, which is kind of outside of that area. So there will be times where I might be called to both for the same thing, and then I'd pretty much doing the same thing. I'd be in comms. So I just say I'm reporting for both organizations. But for the most part, they serve different things, different events, different purposes.
Now, the CERT group that you're with is quasi-government official, right?
Well, CERT is a FEMA established program in
Okay.
a city. So, yes, I mean, it's not, I can't say I'm a FEMA employee or anything, but
You ain't
the
seen no
whole
check
program
yet,
is
right?
based on the FEMA curriculum and guidelines. And so they typically attach to a municipal service org like a fire department. So in this case, it's part of our fire department. And so they have all kinds of stuff like uniforms, and they have their own reporting lines and organizations and MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding. With different, like Red Cross or Salvation Army or whatever, right? And that's typically where the deployments will happen. You'll either be deployed for an event or some kind of service organization like Red Cross, having shelter support or something like that, or you will be part of the fire department's activities. Like if they're battling a fire, I might be called to do firefighter rehab for helping the people on the front line take a break and, give them food and water and, make sure that they rest for a period of time before going back out on the line.
Now, you guys have, is medical training part of your deal with
We have
CERT?
different levels. So if you're interested in CERT, you can actually go to a basics class where you go through all this training of basic first aid and search and rescue, and in some cases you'll even do what do you call those exercises where everyone acts like they're victims?
Tabletop.
Yeah, you basically are just.
Red teaming.
It's essentially
That too.
an initiation, because all the members like to troll all the initiates.
Any
so it's
day
like a
on
hazing.
Twitter, Steve.
And
Right.
but basically they go through that, and if they express further interest, they can become a level 2, which is you take further trainings, you take more things like you get CPR and first aid classes and other things. And then at a certain point, you can keep taking these classes where you can do basic life support or advanced first aid. And then you are called a level 1. So it starts at 3 and goes to 1. 1 is like you're a first responder. You're basically a person who can handle a medical situation.
Okay,
or
so
a
that's
volunteer
that.
event.
Yeah,
And so
but not licensed. You're not an EMT at that point.
I mean, EMTs kind of get a pass into being a level 1 just by being an EMT, but it doesn't work the other way. Like you'd have to actually get EMT training if you wanted to be that. So I'm a level 2, and I'm trying to get all the required trainings to become level 1, so I could be one of those people who administers the Band-Aids in the shelters and so forth.
Did a lot of that. I'm a paramedic, and 80% of any fire department's calls are medical, and 80% of those are non-emergent care is the polite way of saying it. Non-emergent care.
Yep.
There's another word I'd use, but it's a family show, so you know.
I remember one deployment I went to where all I could do was bring the medical supplies to the level 1. I was not allowed to touch the patient.
You were the gopher.
At all. And so basically, yeah, I was just running around all the time getting whatever they were yelling for.
Right. We had an old guy that was in our fire department for a long time, and he joined when he's like in his mid 70s, and he ran with us till he's probably 81 or 82, and that's all he'd do. And he said, "That's all I'm going to do is just you tell me to get stuff." And so he went, and my wife was an EMT also, and we went on a lot of calls together. And the first baby delivery we ever caught, Dave, the old guy, was with us, and that was that. He just stood there holding the bag and looking, and I'm like, Dave, it's a vagina and a baby coming out of it. We got things to do. Give me the stuff. Let's go. Move. My wife's calling him. Yeah, it's not a possible child delivery. We're dropping a puppy right now. So
Wow.
yeah. Anyway, guys, it's 8:03, and I don't want to cut in. I don't know if Cashler's on or Ham
Cashler's
Nation.
on, yeah.
Cashler's on. So
Get the
we need to
Rathacast.
wrap it up. Dennis, thank you for coming. Steve, what you got
Oh,
going on with your
Thanks
channel?
for having me.
I got so much stuff going on with my channel. I'm not even sure where to start. I have one more of these kits available for sale. Power poles on each end and big old maxi fuses in the middle there. One of these left, and then I got to start working on the redesign with all of the feedback that I've gotten so far.
The version
So,
2.0,
Yes, maybe 2.1.
2.1. Skip the
2.0.
2.0 and go to 2.1.
People don't like .0 releases.
Right.
I get it. I don't want to be I don't want to be your guinea pig.
Charles, what do you got going on, buddy? You're
Well-
building something, I'm sure.
Not really. I'm trying to finish. So I got fancy with my cameras. I'm driving on one of the sodas, and I turned it on to. It's not one of the modes where it makes it look like you're going really fast. I forget what they call it. Each manufacturer calls something different. So when I get to my my soda, I'm up there doing a nice, beautiful view of the area and trying to do my intro to my video, and it was still on. So there's no sound when you do that, and a 2-minute thing lasts
Time
2
lapse.
seconds.
Yeah.
It wasn't
That
a
was
time
weird.
lapse. It's the other one.
Did y'all
it goes
just
the
drop
other
me?
way.
No.
What?
Am I still here?
You're still here.
You're still around.
I can drop you if
That
you
was
like.
still
Weird.
here.
I got a black screen. Everybody froze. Dennis
Oh.
came back. You two were gone.
Yeah, your internet connection dropped for a bit.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
StreamYard does when you drop.
And so to finish, I'm heading either tonight or tomorrow morning up to Sonoma Raceway for the NHRA drag races again.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
So I do that with my brother-in-law almost every year.
I used to motorcycle up there for the superbike races.
Nice.
Did you go down the side road and cut and pass all the cars?
No.
No. My buddy
I've
says,
been-
well, they clean that out. They want you to do that. I'm like, no, I don't know.
I've been to Talladega. Once on my motorcycle, there was a, what was it, a March of Dimes, Bikers for Babies or something. It was a motorcycle ride, and it ended at Talladega, and we all got to ride on the track. And it was so cool, and they wouldn't let you get up in the curves. They had a whole bunch of off-duty cops and whatnot on bikes who were keeping
slap you
everybody
down.
down on the flat part. And if you got too high, they'd, kind of crowd you back down and wave at you to get down. Still good. The Goldwing got up to about 120, and I had to throttle it back for the crowd. That was pretty cool. I could have
crowd.
worked Talladega as a medic, but somehow walking around in Alabama in May with a million drunk people is not at the top of my list of things I wanted to do. So that's my race experience there.
Yeah, the Sonoma Fire Department used to work this one. So
Well, they apparently Talladega, the people that run Talladega, they get, statewide, they get a call for EMS to come work the crowd, and it pays fairly well, but I don't, Talladega's freaking huge. So, and we have a lot of drunk people in Alabama, just saying. So,
it's just saying.
Dennis, what do you got coming up, buddy?
Nothing.
Nothing. No
Yeah, just
YouTube
hanging out.
channel plans or
I always get these ideas for radio-related video shorts to do, but haven't actually turned on the camera for them. So maybe. I've done nothing with my channel since 2019, and I'm up to 853 subscribers. I'm just like, wow. It's just kind of like
I think
growing
I
on
passed you.
its
I think
own.
I passed you tonight. I would like to thank everybody that subscribed. By my count, my last count, I gained
856.
11 or 12 subscribers tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some scheduled interviews. So I'll be reaching out to some people who have been on before as well.
Cool.
Do some catch up, and then I'm just doing my thing with VHF. That's my life right now.
I've
And,
got more radio stuff to do than I have time to do.
Yes.
yeah.
And Steve apparently has a lot of radio stuff already filmed. He just hasn't uploaded it for whatever reason. Steve's just slow rolling all the greatness out a little at a time.
You can't overstay your welcome.
Right?
People bugging me
place.
about now that TO released that one video. People bugging me again, so I might have to go order some battery hookup cells again
I need a
and
Denko
start
battery.
building again.
I'm going to tell BioWinner you guys need
you're
to
welcome.
look
I'll
out.
say it again. I don't sell them, but some people do get my extra battery builds. So we'll see where that goes.
We didn't even get to talk about JerryNet. We got so wound up with batteries. Guys, Mr. Kastler's on. Y'all go over there and watch whatever excellent thing he's doing tonight. Tell him that Coffee and Ham Radio Cafe Noir sent you.
No.
I'm going to hit the button. Y'all have a good evening.
All right.
See you,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.